The case against Google Maps, Google for their maps. The video I made, I remember a lot of people got a little angry. So I want to do a couple things in this video. First, I want to give a more full story of what happened. And the second thing I want to do is talk about one of the most interesting concepts of this case, because I think a lot of people who have been watching my video and commenting, and I appreciate that, have been missing one of the most important things in this case. So real quick, here's the facts. In September of 2022 in Hickory, North Carolina, Phillip Paxson, a father, a family man, is driving down the road following Google Maps. It is late at night, it is storming, and it is extremely dark. Google Maps takes him through a route that should have included going over a bridge. The problem is, there was no bridge there, and he plummets to his death. Before we jump to any conclusions, let's look at the evidence. Let me tell you a little bit more than you might already know. So this all happens in September of 2022, but the bridge had not existed since 2013. So over the years, driver after driver said to Google, hey, we're reporting this to you. There's no bridge there. You sent me over this road where there's no bridge. I could have been seriously injured. You've got to change your maps and you have to stop sending people over this bridge. So fast forward 9 years, and this tragic incident happens, and the family decides that they are going to sue Google. They filed a lawsuit against Google claiming that Google was negligent for not changing the map. Now, let's put on your lawyer hat and let's analyze this as I would if the Paxson family walked into my office. So they come to my office and say, we don't think Phillip should have died. Here's the story. Do you think we have a case? First thing we have to figure out is who are the potential defendants? You may be thinking it's got to be the government. It's a road. Government has to maintain roads. Got a surprise for you here. This was a private road. It was privately owned by a company in a residential community, and it was not owned or maintained by any government entity. So the private company that owned the road, they're first on my list. I'm thinking, yes, of course.
We allege the bridge defendants failed to maintain adequate guards, warning signs, and the like to alert drivers.
Private entity owns the road. The road has not been operational. The bridge has been gone and dangerous since 2013. Probably should have put signs up. Probably should have put lights up. Probably should have warned drivers in some way. So on my sheet of paper, I'm writing owner of the land who did not maintain road. That's potentially our first defendant. I'm thinking, is there anyone else? And then the family tells me, well, he was using Google Maps. Do you think we have a case against them? Let's think this through. Try to leave your preconceived notions at the door and let's truly think about this. Your goal is to get justice for this family, okay? Keep that in mind. The facts are, other drivers had reported to Google over the years that this road wasn't there, the bridge wasn't there, and it was extremely dangerous, and they needed to change their maps. But Google didn't do that.
This is the area on 2 maps. On MapQuest, if you look, you can see that there's a gap in the roadway that shows that it is not passable. Now, if you look at Google Maps, not the case there. As of today, it still shows a passable roadway instead of this washed away bridge.
We know that Paxson was using Google Maps as he was driving, and we know obviously that he was following Google Maps. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe there is a case against Google. Let's talk about what 4 elements we'd have to prove against Google though. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that negligence hinges on 4 elements: duty, breach, cause, and damages. Here, we can put damages aside. We know they're damages. And usually in those videos, I zoom right past the duty element because it's things like, hey, did you have a duty to follow the rules of the road? Did you have a duty to not break the law? Here though, duty seems to be the biggest issue in a lawsuit against Google. What duty means is a legal responsibility to do or not do something. And then if you don't follow that duty, you've breached it. If you breach it and it causes injuries, then there are damages, and that's how you get duty, breach, cause, and damages. But if we stick with duty for a moment, does Google have a legal responsibility to its customers for their maps to be accurate, even when they know the maps are inaccurate? Google is saying it does not have a legal responsibility to its customers to correct dangers when they know about them in the maps. That seems crazy to me. As I'm sitting there in my office listening to the Paxson family, I'm probably thinking there is a viable claim against Google, and I'm interested in more. Now, here is the elephant in the room that I haven't mentioned that you've been probably thinking about since I started this video. But this guy, Phillip Paxson, he must not have been watching where he was going. He's at fault too. Yeah, he would be on my list too. So let me tell you how apportionment works and how this would be divided out in most states, with North Carolina being an exception. In the majority of US states, there is comparative negligence. Comparative negligence means the jury decides all the people who are responsible, and there's 100 points. And those 100 points are points of fault, points of blame. And everyone who possibly is to blame can get points. Google, you can get 25 points. The owners of the property, you can get 50 points. And Phillip Paxson, he can get 25 points if the jury finds that he wasn't paying attention to where he was going. Now, in the majority of states, assuming you win, your recovery is reduced by your own negligence. What am I talking about? Let's use easy numbers. If the jury awards $1 million and finds that Paxson is 25% responsible, then the total reward is reduced by 25%. So if Google and the private company that owns the road are 75% responsible, the family's recovery would be $750,000 in comparative negligence states. North Carolina is not a comparative negligence state. North Carolina is a contributory negligence state. It is a very, very harsh rule for injured people. And what that rule says is if you are negligent at all, you cannot recover a penny. Here, in this North Carolina case, the family has to prove Paxson was not negligent in any way. So they're gonna have to overcome the thoughts you've had in your head. Why didn't he see that the bridge was out? What was he doing in his car? Why was he just trusting Google Maps? Because a lot of people think that that in and of itself is unreasonable. You always have to take care of yourself and you can't rely on others. Those arguments, I hear you. If I'm a lawyer though, I am taking this case. Because when I ask myself, why was he put in a situation where he had to avoid a danger? Who's responsible for creating the danger? And I think there are two answers. Hopefully for the family, there's only two answers. Those answers are the private company allowed the bridge to collapse and didn't do anything about it, and Google knew about the danger and didn't warn anyone. If I put my Google hat on, I'm sitting there knowing that there is a danger. I'm gonna send drivers over that bridge that isn't a bridge. Just on a human level, I would feel responsible if someone got hurt. And that's what I think a jury would feel in this exact same situation, and that's why I would take the case. Now, if you're wondering how this specific lawsuit is going, let me give you an update. The lawsuit was filed in September 2023 in Wake County, North Carolina. There have been some depositions, the parties have exchanged discovery, and the case is ongoing. Whether a person is negligent is almost always an issue of fact for the jury. So in this Google Maps case, was Phillip Paxson negligent? Was he acting reasonably or unreasonably while he was driving a car? It'd be extremely difficult for a judge to rule that he was, as a matter of law, that he was acting unreasonably. I don't know this, but I would imagine the family's getting a human factors expert and getting some sort of light test done. A human factors expert is a person with training and expertise in understanding and explaining what humans do and why we do it. How do we react to stimuli out there in the world? How much time does it take you to perceive the danger in your mind and then react to the danger? And then typically you'd have an accident reconstructionist to explain how much time it takes to actually avoid the danger. I bet a human factors expert would be able to explain how lights, specifically headlights, are not as useful when there is no road and there's nothing to light up. So that's an expert that I would expect them to have in this case. And that potentially would create a jury issue because the jury would have to hear from the human factors expert, and then the jury could believe the human factors expert that maybe he wasn't able to perceive the danger, maybe he didn't have time to react to the danger, and that would make a reason why he was not responsible in any way. So I feel bad for this family, the fact that this case is in North Carolina, because if it was in a different state with comparatory negligence laws, it'd be a much stronger case because all you'd have to prove in these other states is that Paxson wasn't 50% or more responsible. So as long as he's less than 50% responsible, you're still gonna make a recovery.